why do you do these things to me? Why do you do this to me? We talked before the show, and Eric's like, "Oh, I'll turn my camera on when we start." I was like, "Okay." I'm thinking, I don't know. He's just doing something funny that I'll enjoy. Eric, did you mean to torture me? As soon I come back, I haven't. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on.
It's the holiday season, Jake. It's
fine.
the holiday season.
He's the Grinch.
I'm wearing my ugly sweater. I got my.
It's ugly, all right. Hey,
exactly.
You know what, John? Here's the good news. He admits that the Eagles' colors and the sweater and everything is ugly. So you know what? It's all good. Everything's fine.
It's an ugly sweater, guys. Come on.
It is.
If being a number one seed is ugly, I mean, I don't want to.
I'm not.
Good.
That's not what I'm getting at. I'm getting at the fact that it's Eagles paraphernalia. That in general means it's ugly. It doesn't matter.
It's the holiday season.
Come on, Grinch.
Thanks for having
Sing
me on,
along.
Guys.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you guys having me on Sideline
Grinch over here.
First of all, I'm Jewish.
This guy.
So well, happy Hanukkah, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Eric.
Happy Hanukkah. That doesn't mean you have to be a Grinch.
I'm not being a Grinch, but why aren't we singing Adam Sandler's Hanukkah song? Why are we not?
I don't know if that's appropriate on here.
Why not? So your holiday is appropriate and mine is not. All right, John. You know what?
Let's see how it is. He's saying the music that some Jewish celebrities have put out, which have become world.
It's great. It's just
classic icons.
Appropriate.
All right.
We're just not sure if it is age appropriate for the flagship show of the Sideline Sports Network. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine. Well, we talk about ugly. We talk about lack of appropriateness. I mean, can we talk about? This is what I wanted to start with. So that's what I was asking before the show. What are we going to start with tonight? Can we talk about the Patriots versus Raiders game? Like, I don't want to. But ultimately, as a sports show, we can't avoid that. Can one of you two, because I don't understand, can you explain what that last play was? Because Ramondre Stevenson makes the lateral to Jacoby Myers, and I'm okay with that because I watched it, I think, maybe he thinks that Myers can get some extra yardage and maybe they can score. Okay. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. But who was Jacoby Myers throwing to? Was he throwing to Mac Jones? Did he think that even if Mac Jones catches it, that it was going to result in a touchdown? I'm so perplexed.
You talk about the Grinch, and sometimes these things happen. I guess his heart has not grown 3 times too large. For Mac Jones and Bill Belichick and whoever their offensive coordinator is, which they don't have one apparently.
Well, they do, but he's.
This was, anything can happen in Vegas. Unfortunately, what happens in Vegas this time didn't stay in Vegas because Mac Jones getting stiff-armed by former Patriots player, now Raiders player Chandler Jones has become the meme of, I'm going to say, the Christmas meme.
Sure, it's fair.
So. Listen, to answer your question, Jake, I have no clue what the Patriots were thinking. It just Jacoby Myers being the guy that he is, he put it all on himself. He said, "You know what? That one's on me."
I respect that.
This game was supposed to go to overtime. Unfortunately, Chandler Jones had other ideas, starting with stiff arming the quarterback and then taking it to the house.
Look, I give Jacoby Myers credit for at least owning up to it. That was the right move. Unlike his NFC or AFC East counterpart, Zach Wilson, who doesn't own up to things. So I give Jacoby Myers credit for that, for actually learning from those kinds of mistakes and saying, I should own up to a mistake I made, because that's what real people, that's what you're supposed to do. You make a mistake. But I watched that play, and I watched it a couple times, and I thought, maybe there's something I'm missing. I don't understand any of that play. And the thing that confuses me the most is, even if Mac Jones does catch it, Chandler Jones is not there, Mac Jones catches it. Does Jacoby Myers really think that Mac Jones has a better chance of running the football however far the distance was than Jacoby Myers does? Because I got to be honest, I've watched Mac Jones. He can throw the football decently. but no disrespect, but he's not necessarily super athletic. He's not super fast. I don't really know what the plan was if he got the ball, because if you ever watch Mac Jones run the ball, he's not on the quick side. He's a little on the slower side. Unfortunately, the way he runs kind of reminds me of my old quarterback, Eli Manning, which is not a good thing. So maybe, John, you have some perspective. You play this team twice a year, so maybe you know something that I don't or Eric doesn't that you've seen. I don't understand this play still. I mean, again, credit to him for owning up to it. Still don't understand it.
I think it's great, first of all, that the Patriots were on the wrong side of the Miami Miracle, and they were on the wrong side of this. So they just happen to be on the wrong side of these wacky
They're just on the wrong side
plays.
of history.
Chandler Jones actually mentioned that they used to practice something like this in New England, and so he remembered that from his New England days. And so he said during the play, he was anticipating them doing something like that.
Great.
Because he remembered what they used to do in New England, I guess, in practices. And so he remembered from his days, and he was just kind of
smart.
lining up in the right spot, and he anticipated what Myers was going to do. And then, man, the memes that came out of him running over Mac Jones, they're just amazing. I mean, the best one has to be him being the reindeer, and then Mac Jones's grandma, because grandma got run over by the reindeer. Yes. That's the best one.
That one was impeccable. I love that one.
Wow.
That was my favorite.
I have not seen that one. So someone please tweet me that one at Eric Wilson TV, because I want to see that one. I have not seen that
fantastic.
one.
I'll see if I can find it. It was pretty good, I must say.
That's crazy. But I mean, listen, in defense, Jacoby Myers, he basically said, I didn't see the dude, referring to Chandler Jones back there tracking the ball. I was doing too much. Should have just went down with the ball. He also added that he thought he saw his quarterback open with room to run. And he very plainly put it, that's just me trying to make a play. I got the ball. Right. I tried to make a play. Ramondre Stevenson gave me the ball. I got to be smart with it. And, shout out to our producer, because he even thinks, he's like, maybe Myers just got his wires crossed. He saw Jones on a jersey and just threw it. I mean,
hey, it happens, but
has Bill Belichick lost his touch, Jake? Because
I don't know that he's lost
his touch. I mean, we've watched 2 decades of him with Tom Brady, and this never happened. The punt blocked.
Yeah.
I mean, the same game, they had a punt blocked. That stuff never happened before. And now all of a sudden, since Tom Brady's left, all these fundamental things, these bonehead things, are happening, and that's never happened before under Bill Belichick with Tom Brady there. Now everything's happening. So I wonder if he's lost his touch, and maybe it's time for Bill to leave town or retire. But maybe it's time for him not to be the Patriots head coach anymore. I mean, what has he done since Tom Brady's been there?
Well, I think some of the problem is the coaching staff he's brought in a little bit, unfortunately.
That's on him.
No, I understand, but I don't think it's fair to say he's lost his touch. I think he just needs to bring better coaches in, which is a mistake on his end, but I don't think you can say, he's lost his touch.
Well, you can't blame that on the coaches, what just happened at the end of the game.
Well, no, but what I can blame them on is preparation. And so I think that falls on Belichick for bringing the wrong guys in terms of preparation. Look, Matt Patricia, he was a fine offensive coordinator for Tom Brady. Things were fine.
Matt Patricia wasn't the offensive coordinator for Brady. It was Josh McDaniels. Matt Patricia was the defensive coordinator. Yeah. I don't know why he's the offensive coordinator.
He's the offensive line. Excuse me. He's offensive line. Excuse me. I take that back. No, that was a mistake. He is the offensive line coach. But my point is, he brought back Joe Judge. He brought back Matt Patricia. His son Steven is the linebackers coach. Nothing against any of these people. It's just, I don't know that they're equipped to do the job at hand. When Tom Brady was in town, it was easier. Why? You just tell Tom, hey, here's my idea. If you don't like it, do something else, and Tom Brady will take care of things. It's not that easy, because now it's a young quarterback. He's not as talented. it's a very different roster. It's
roster
harder
that
with the worst.
he put together. He's the GM too.
I
and he's the one
understand
that went out and got all this money spent for these awful free agents. Stonehands Aguilar, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith. None of them have panned out. Kendrick Bourne, all awful pickups.
Again, but for me, a lot of it comes down to bad coaching, preparation from not just him, his assistants, and more importantly, his quarterback play is not great. They're still an okay team in terms of record. They're not great. They're not imposing their will like they used to, but they're not terrible. Like, they're not the worst. There are certainly teams worse than them. So I think with a better quarterback, things can improve. And I've heard rumors that, hey, maybe the Patriots will go after Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason because both are free agents. And I guarantee you, Bill would want, honestly, probably knowing him, he would probably want Garoppolo over Brady because of age. And also, if you remember, he wanted Garoppolo to take over. So I think he doesn't look as good because he's without Tom Brady. And I think it's a little hard to judge. I think there are some mistakes that need to be addressed, but a worse quarterback and just, being so used to having Tom, it's harder to judge them in the same way. It's harder his job now. So I think lay off him a little bit. I'm not giving him all the passes in the world, but it could be worse. They could have 2 or 3 wins. They still have, I believe, 6 or 7 wins.
Well, that would be better. That would be better because at least you would get a nice draft pick.
I understand that, but I think with a guy like Bill Belichick, you're not as likely to see 2 or 3 wins because of the kind of coach he is. He's like Mike Tomlin, right? The worst case scenario, he's going to try and keep you around that 500 mark at the worst. At his best, he can win you a Super Bowl, but at the worst, he's not going to let you drop and be terrible because that's what he does. He's a good coach.
I would agree with that, Jake, except if we're going to put some blame on Bill Belichick, because like John said, he is the general manager. He's also the head coach. I think then we also got to take the flip side of that to say, the argument that was back in 2020, 2021 was, what's Brady going to be like without Belichick? What's Belichick going to be like without Brady? Well, Belichick has maintained, to your point, Jake, at the very least, a 500 record, if not better.
Yep.
Meanwhile, this year will probably be the first season, and there's still time, but Brady could potentially be one of those teams that we argue and complain about and say, if you don't have a winning record just because you win your division does not mean you should get a playoff game.
Yep.
But with regard to Belichick and this whole situation, listen, I agree with you. I think the time is up for Bill. I think it is time for him to give the reins to somebody else because unless Brady or Garoppolo are walking through that door, you're going to need not just a quarterback. You are going to need wide receivers.
You need a lot.
You're going to need more on the defensive side. So if next year, all of a sudden, Brady signs a 1-year deal to end his career in New England, then there better be a lot of money spent to give Brady what he needs for his true last ride.
Right.
His swan song, his last dance, call it whatever you want to call it. But John, as much as it is the holiday season, I do have to agree with you at this point. We can't just put all the blame, if you will, on the players, because at the end of the day, the decision was made by the head coach and the general manager, who just happened to be the same person.
You're right about that. So really quickly, because this was a couple weeks ago now, and John, I haven't had a chance on a show to really comment on this. And Eric, I'm so glad you're here. You are the perfect person to be here because JB wasn't here to witness that moment, but I was behind the scenes and you were on screen with my boy John. And John, I finally can get to you about this because a few weeks ago we had technical difficulties. Last week I was finishing up school, getting over the flu, all that. John, a couple weeks ago, your Dolphins played the 49ers, and on Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel, I don't remember your exact words, but I do remember you said I will all but guarantee, you wouldn't actually guarantee, but you were super
I
confident.
never used
But
those words.
your words were very indicative that you were very confident. Oh, the Dolphins are going to blow out the Niners. It's not even going to be close. And you had all the superlatives, all the words to talk about how badly the Niners were going to get beat. And John, do you remember the score of that game by any chance? Because if not, I have it here. I'll tell you.
33-17.
Darn tootin' it was, John. And you know who beat you in that game?
It was a 6-point game in the fourth quarter.
Brock Purdy beat you, John. And
a guy we didn't prepare for. We didn't have film on. I understand that.
John, you
prepare for somebody and then somebody else comes in. Changes everything. I get it.
John. You were losing this game from the beginning, basically.
Well, we were up 7-0 after one play, so you can't really say that.
I said basically. You had one play where you led, but I'm saying most of the game you were like that one play you were leading. My point is from that point on, you never led again, I don't believe. So my point is you can make all the excuses, but you lost, John. You lost. And you got beat by the guy that was Mr. Irrelevant. And now I will say,
look,
I'm not surprised he's playing well. I didn't think he'd play this well, but with that kind of offense, all you got to do is get it to your playmakers. But with that said, you lost, John. You got your butt whooped. And you may not want to
it's not a whoop. It was a 6-point game.
33-17 is pretty bad, John. They nearly doubled you.
It was a 6-point game, and then
it was a 6-point game, but the final score of the game was not.
There was like a minute or so to go, and we were trying for basically desperation plays, and then they stripped us and ran it back. In garbage time, the game was already over. I think they were up by 10.
Final score of that game,
but it was a 6-point game in the fourth quarter.
I don't care. You know what the final score was? 33-17. How many points that means you lost by? It means you lost by 16
It's like saying the Cowboys blew out the Colts on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks ago. No, they didn't. Yeah. They had a huge fourth quarter, but it was a 1-point game in the fourth quarter.
Doesn't matter.
20-19.
The final score had them blow them out.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. But you have to put it into context. You can't just say,
Eric, I wanted to bring this up, and it's going to segue, I think, into something you wanted to talk about. I think it's a good way to transition it. But it has been on my mind since he said it because he was so confident. And you were there, which is why I'm so happy you're here right now.
He wouldn't give me the two magical words. He wouldn't give them to me. And I tried.
I know, but he was so confident.
John wouldn't. See, John is very good at a lot of things. And he knows how passionate I can get sometimes. And he'll egg me, and he'll poke the dragon until finally I give him what he wants. I will say this though, John Shear is pretty much a stonewall because he knows the minute he slips up and says it, we got receipts. But to that point, and I am John, like you, I'm looking at the scoreboard. I mean, listen, at the end of the first, you were down by 3. At halftime, you were down by 7. And then after that, John, that was the end of it. You didn't score in the third quarter at all. And it's one of those things, sir, where you've lost now the past couple of weeks in a row.
Right.
And at some point, John, you're going to have to take them L's, my brother. You just going to have to.
We play Green Bay this week.
I understand, but you're going to have to take them L's. That's just how it is,
look,
I'm having some technical issue, guys. So you know what? Give me a minute. I apologize. I'll be right back.
Not a problem.
Hey, look,
John,
sometimes bad games happen. The Eagles almost lost to the Bears. They struggled with the Bears. The Chiefs struggled with the Texans. Teams struggle with teams. Cowboys struggle with the Colts.
John, let me remind you that almost only counts in horseshoes.
It matters.
What almost happened versus what did. You know what? The Patriots almost went undefeated, but they didn't. And you know what?
Exactly.
Nobody cares. Right. So nobody cares that it
but
almost
it matters
happened.
When you look at how a team is playing. It matters.
The Dolphins haven't been playing as well.
Right. And I actually don't think that's a bad thing because You don't
Hold
want
on.
to.
Why do you wait till I get off the screen and start talking about the Eagles, John? You waited.
You don't-
see, you had that one in the chamber. You waited until I got off the screen to bring up the Eagles. This is what you do, John. You think you
It's not my
slick,
fault you
but
left.
I saw that. I had technical issues, but the last thing I heard was, "Oh, the Eagles almost lost to the Bears," and then click.
Yeah,
I was
you
like,
struggle with the Chicago Bears.
waited.
And
John,
Jalen Hurts had a
so-
bad game.
Okay, but
Still
we still have
won.
the best record at 13-1.
Things happen. That's what I'm telling Jake.
We struggled.
Everybody has their bad games.
But the
But
difference
nobody's-
is the Eagles didn't lose those games. Unfortunately,
Right.
they won.
Right.
They did. You have
John,
lost.
I'll tell you right now, every team in the AFC South, the Philadelphia Eagles have struggled with. The Jacksonville Jaguars went up 14-0 on us.
Yep.
But we came back and won. Jeff Saturday, head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, in his second game, almost
talk
went
about Jeff
2-0.
Saturday?
Almost went 2-0 until our offense, like the Lord did, parted the Red Sea, and Jalen Hurts just walked like Moses up the middle and scored the game-winning touchdown against the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, you
The
won't be
Houston
doing that anytime
Texans,
soon.
on a short week, we had to go to Houston. On a short week, we almost lost to a one-win team. And then just this past Sunday, with the Bears, I mean, we blew out the Titans. Let's call it what it is. So, but we have had issues with teams, okay? But at the end of the day, John, we're still winning. Whereas you, sir, with the Miami Dolphins
Are losing.
are not.
That's actually a good thing right now because
Losing
wanna
three
peak-
in a row, John.
you
is
don't
How
not
wanna
is
good.
peak-
losing a good thing, John?
you don't want to peak too early before the playoffs.
No,
Look,
but John,
John,
you know what?
we're in
the
December.
Niners,
John,
the
here's
Niners
the
already
We're
problem.
in
peaked.
December.
The Niners already peaked.
How would they
By the
peak?
time by the time the
Okay.
playoffs start, they're already
John,
peaked.
alright.
And they'll be
I
on
just
the
want to ask you
downtrend.
one question. I just
You
want
want
to
to
ask
get
you
hot
one
at the
question.
right time. You don't want to get
I
hot
got,
too early.
I got one question for you, and try to tell me how this is a positive, please. You lost to the Chargers second most recently, and now you lost to the Bills, who are two teams that at the moment would be in the playoffs.
Right, like us.
How is it a good thing that those are two teams you could potentially play at some point in the playoffs, right? How is it a good thing to lose to them, especially the Bills, who you know are one of the best teams in the NFL,
I already
and
know what
you
mean
know
about the
are going to
Bills.
play you very well, and they beat you in a close game. Now, you beat them in the first game, but again, they beat you in a close game in Buffalo, which is where you would have to play them if you're to play them.
Yeah,
How is
I'm
that a
not worried
good
about
thing?
that. You don't want to
Tell
peak
me how
too
this is a
early.
good thing.
And you don't want to peak too early. You got
That's not
3
what I
games
asked.
to go,
That's not what I asked.
and it's
Don't talk
time
about peaking
right
early.
now
No.
is when you
Don't-
start to get hot.
Don't talk to me about peaking early. I want you to tell me how those two games that you lost are a positive thing against teams you might be playing in the playoffs. Forget peaking early. I don't want to hear that. I want you to explain those two games in particular, how it's a good thing. Because I don't see how it's a good thing. If you lost to the Giants and
Look,
the Packers, fine. Who cares? You're not going to face them in the playoffs. But those are teams you might have to play to continue your run in the playoffs. That's why I want to know, how is that a positive?
If the Grinch came down a week before Christmas and tried to steal the presents and the Christmas tree and the Christmas ham, it wouldn't have worked. He had to do it at just the right time. He had to get hot at the right time. He didn't want to peak too early, and he did it at the right time.
So you're going back to the whole peak argument. Okay.
He was able to steal the Christmas tree and steal the presents.
Okay, so
just as he had planned, because at the roast beast, just like JT said, he did it all at the right time.
John,
he got hot at the right time, and it worked.
Let me clarify
out.
something.
You don't want to go too early.
I just want to clarify that your argument strictly is you don't want to peak too early, and that is the only positive you can give me about losing to two teams that you might have to face in the playoffs.
You got to go through adversity to get stronger.
But I'm asking you about
the Eagles had to lose to the Washington football team, Washington Commanders, whatever, to experience some adversity. They really hadn't experienced it. They lost a game. They had to get punched in the face and feel that taste of defeat. Like sometimes you got to feel that adversity.
So, Eric, what I'm understanding from John is losing 3 in a row and losing to back-to-back games to potential opponents in the playoffs is good because you don't want to peak too early and you want to face adversity, and that makes everything okay. When Tua plays really not as great as you would hope,
so
thank you.
That makes sense. It's fine.
Let me see if I might be able to shed a little.
Now you understand my language.
No,
let me see if I can shed a little Christmas light on this, because as crazy and as messed up as he sounds every week here on Sideline Sports, John, in his own way, does make some very little sense.
Very
and
little.
Let me explain why. Because the only point, John, that you make that is valid is you want to hit your stride at the right time. Now, here's the thing. Your Miami Dolphins currently are on a 3-game losing streak with 3 games left and are going to have to, I'm sure with a little bit of help, make their way into the postseason.
Correct.
If this Saturday, whenever I think you play, you play Sunday.
Sunday at 1 o'clock, which will all 3 be
1 o'clock. Green Bay. Yes. So in John's way, in John's Christmas mind, he's saying to himself, okay, our run to Arizona starts on Christmas.
Yes.
We done been through everything. We done survived 2022, all the good times, the bad times, but now it's our time.
Yes.
And we have to start now if we intend to be in Arizona in February. So I understand where that's coming from. Where I'm going to go with Jake on this, and where I typically normally do go, is, John, I think you have to look at, you're not locked in to make the playoffs just yet. The possibility still exists
that's not a good thing.
You're not going to get in if you don't make this run these next 3 games.
That means backs against the wall for the rest of the season.
I understand
every
that.
game the rest of the year is backs against the wall.
And John, that's great. You know what that is, my friend? That is 7 games that you have to go perfect. Or I shouldn't say perfect, but 7 victories you need. Now, last year, your Miami Dolphins did just that. You started off losing 7, and then you won 7. So that's where I understand your mentality. What concerns me, though, is, to Jake's point, you do realize, John, that teams that you have faced once before, one being a divisional opponent and one being where Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa are going to be forever locked in NFL history because they were the number 5 and number 6 pick.
Well, they won't.
So that rival,
they won't face unless they get to the conference championship.
Okay, but what I'm saying to you is, you are going to have to face those opponents potentially that already have either beat you once, or in the case of Buffalo, well, no, you split with them. Excuse me.
Beat
So
you once and played you close twice.
Right, exactly. So, and John, you know as well as I do, divisional games in the playoffs.
Worst thing in the
Bro,
world.
come on, man.
Eric, you and I both.
Eric, I have a question.
Eric, Eric, you and I are both just praying we don't have to play each other, or you have to play the Cowboys.
No, you're praying that you don't have to play him.
No, I'm praying not to play any of them, because divisional games in the playoffs are the worst thing, period. And I agree. Eric and I are in this problem. Have this problem where all 4 of our teams are going to make it at the moment in our division. So the chances of playing each other are infinitely higher. This sucks.
I said this to somebody. I think I may even said it, shameless plug on the Sports Arena, or I said it on Alex Fleming's NFL Carousel. I said, in my heart, what I want is, I want the 3 NFC East teams that are all in the wild card to beat the division champs. So that way I can at least sit here and say that one team from the NFC East will be represented in the Super Bowl.
That would be cool.
And I'd rather it be the Commanders or the Giants, or of course my Eagles, more so than Dallas. But
of course,
that's what I'm saying to you.
Nobody wants
Dallas. The divisional round and the conference championship would be nothing but NFC East. Can you just imagine what those games are going to be like?
Those
like
would
John,
be bloodbaths.
Oh yeah, of course. Like whoever comes out of that Final Four clearly has been battle tested. But John, getting back to you and getting back to Miami, do I have faith in Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle? Yes, I do. But John, if you have to go to Buffalo again
I'm
face them again,
I'm not concerned after how we just played in Buffalo in that weather.
John, I would be. John, I give you all the credit in the world.
How can I be,
John?
Jake?
I'll tell you why, John.
I give you all the credit in the world, John. But please understand, it's going to be colder. That stadium's going to be a hell of a lot louder. Yep. And you already know, Josh Allen.
What I take from this, Eric.
John, to answer real quick, hold on. John, you asked me a question. To answer your question, why? Because Tua had about a 56 approximate % completion percentage, which is not terrible. That's okay.
He had a lot of drops. A lot of drops.
Not the biggest issue, but Josh Allen, and rephrase that. Finishing Tua, he threw for under 300 yards, and more importantly, he only threw 2 touchdowns, which doesn't sound bad. But when you have Josh Allen on the other side, who had about a 62.5% completion percentage, he had 300+ yards and 4 touchdowns.
Well, our defense is not good.
But that's why I'm worried, because Tua cannot or likely will not have a 300+ 4 touchdown, 60+% completion percentage game against the Bills
why he didn't
in the
throw
cold.
300 yards, right?
In the cold, I don't think he'll do that.
Go look up how many rushing yards we had, Jake.
John, I understand that. But if you do hold on. If I do cumulative rushing yards for both teams, they're probably pretty similar, actually. And I'll do that right now happily, because the Bills
Mostert had 100 in the first quarter.
That's fine. But it was him and then almost nobody else. The Bills had Josh Allen with 70+, Singletary with 40+, and James Cook with 30+. So my point is, they probably had a relatively similar number in terms of total rushing yards. That's my point. So I don't know the numbers offhand, what they add up to, and I'll do that real quick.
I think Mostert had around 170 or so.
No, he had 136.
136, there you go. That's really good against a defense like Buffalo, yeah.
That's fine. You had 188 total. The Bills had about 150 total.
And what Miami did was controlled the clock.
But hold on. But John, my point is to that then, you guys had only about 30 more rushing yards, but Josh Allen had over 50 more passing yards, and more importantly, 2 extra touchdowns that Tua didn't. So my point is, if they do stop the run, right, I don't think Tua can play at Josh Allen's level. And I've just proven that their whole team. I sure did. But hold on. I have just proven to you and everybody watching that they can run the ball just as effectively as the Dolphins. They just won't have a guy go for 130. They'll just spread the love, because that's the way that offense is built.
So how many touchdowns did the Dolphins drop? How many passes did the Dolphins drop on Tua? Because it was quite
I have no idea.
Did you watch the Tyreek Hill one in the end zone? He dropped. Then the next one, Sherfield dropped, hit him right in his stomach on a low throw, perfect
and John,
throw.
If I went and watched the Bills, I'm sure there were drops too.
But I'm saying that drive turned into a field goal on the
it doesn't matter.
That's 4 points off the board. That should have been.
John,
Dolphins should have had 4 more points.
Should have, could have, would have, but it didn't.
Exactly. I think you're missing what.
No, but he said Tua only threw 2 touchdowns. Should have been a third.
But
I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying to you is, you are a guy. Yes or no? I just want a simple yes or no question. You are a guy who, when he looks at things, he does look at the analytical piece. Do you or do you not?
Yep.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So Jake has just brought you the analytical piece of the last matchup between your Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills, basically saying, having to do it again in that exact same environment, maybe even worse from a weather standpoint.
Could be.
Tua, we know what the results potentially could be. Now, listen, there is always a possibility that something could sway in the way of the Miami Dolphins. But the analytics currently show that if the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills are to play each other again in this same type of scenario, and everybody is at the same strength level that they were when you played each other, John, okay, then I respect you as a fan, but I really feel like that momentum is only going to push you so far.
2 years ago, when the Dolphins, same position, late in the season, I believe it was like week 17 or something, at Buffalo, they win and they're in the playoffs. They got their ass kicked. Last year, Dolphins just needed to go to Tennessee, win the game. Bad weather again. What did Tua do? Him and the Dolphins got their ass kicked. Okay, so everybody, including me, was like, just be competitive, because we've seen it 2 years in a row where the Dolphins go late weather, late in the season, cold weather, on the road, and they get their ass kicked 2 years in a row. So what I wanted to see was that the Dolphins could play in that weather, not fumble the ball, not throw picks, not get blown out like they did 2 years in a row. And they were up by 8 in Buffalo. They were up by 8, and it took a lot for the Bills to come back and get that 2. And that game was like basically a coin flip. Like, that spoke volumes to me that this isn't
great.
this.
But John,
but Jake,
what you did just tell me is 3 years, 3 years in a row, a late season game in really cold weather, you've lost.
But
now,
that's what I'm saying.
This season was better. This season was better.
That's what I'm
but you
saying.
still haven't won late
Jake,
season or playoffs in the cold weather.
You're missing my point.
Obviously.
I've been a Dolphins fan forever. And
That's
every
great.
year it's same old Dolphins. End of the season, when they make a late push, they melt down. That's how it's been basically my entire life.
Be where you're headed.
But
with 3 losses in a row.
But this year it's not the same. Like, you go to Buffalo and you've had the same game 2 years in a row basically, and you've melted down in those cold weather games. And you didn't do that this year. You took Buffalo to the brink as much as humanly possible, and that game ended up being a coin flip.
But you lost, so who cares?
That's Jake.
I'm serious.
Completely missing. You're completely missing. You have to walk away from that game.
Obviously, because at the end of the day, what I saw was
Jake. You can't just look at wins and losses. Eric, you talked about
gave you stats to back up my point.
You talked about analytics, and I'm telling you exactly. This isn't the same old Dolphins from years past. Whenever you go into cold weather, it's like,
but guess what?
Hey, this is a loss late in the season. You can chalk it up. Like, the Dolphins took them to the brink.
You lost 3 in a row. You lost in a late season cold weather game to an important game, really. The numbers swayed in favor of the other team. I haven't heard anything from you other than you didn't get blown out. That's all I'm hearing. Congratulations on not being blown out, John. Is that what you want to hear?
No, they were beating the Bills by 8. I'm saying
it doesn't matter.
It's not the same old Dolphins.
The Patriots were beating the Giants in the Super Bowl to go undefeated. But guess what? Like I said before, they still lost. It doesn't. The Giants against the Eagles. I hate to bring this up, Eric. You'll appreciate this. The Miracle in the Meadowlands. Guess what? The Giants still lost. They were winning the game, but guess what? At the end of the day, they still lost. So all I'm hearing
is
going by we were competitive, so that's a positive.
Parcells theory.
What you're telling me
what
is
your record says you
are. Hold on. What I'm hearing is we were competitive, and that's good enough. That's improvement. Congratulations, you were competitive. You still lost, which is to my point why I'm concerned. Because Josh Allen was better. Their rushing game was just as good. Their defense made big plays at the right times. Your defense gave up quite a few points at the end of the game. They were home. They handled the cold weather well. There's all these things that make me worried about the Dolphins. I'm not saying the Dolphins guarantee a loss if they face them. I'm just saying these are a lot of concerns I would have as a Dolphins fan or a Dolphins analyst.
They controlled the ball the first meeting in our stadium, 41 minutes to our 19.
That's
and they
great, but you're not going to be in your stadium.
So go look at those numbers, Jake. We beat them,
John.
And they had 400 yards passing, and we had like 100 some, and they controlled the ball more than double our time, and we still won.
That's fine.
Can't just go
but
by
I'm
the
not
numbers.
talking about in Miami, because that's not where the game is going to be. I have to compare apples to apples, which is this late in the season, this cold weather in Buffalo, these two teams. Earlier in the season in Miami, congratulations, you got a win, and it was a good win. You earned that. I give you credit. But it's not the same because you didn't have the same kind of weather. The Bills were not playing the way they were playing. They played well in offense, but the defense is making more timely plays. But forgetting all of that, for me, It's the way they played against you on their home turf. The way that game panned out is what I can compare to what I might see in the playoffs, especially because with the Bills being at home. Those fans are going to be louder, like Eric said. The Bills are going to play with the same intensity. I'm not saying this means the Dolphins automatically lose. I'm just giving you reasons to be concerned from my perspective for all of this. That's all that is.
So when you say the Dolphins lost 3 in a row, and that's all you care about. So the Vikings are 11. Vikings are what, 11-3.
Oh, you want to talk about the Vikings? I think their record is
Are
way
the
better
Vikings
than what they
the
are.
second best team in the NFC?
I don't think they are. I think they're the third best team.
But why? Their numbers, their record says they're the second.
Their
best
defense
team
is
in the
terrible,
NFC.
actually, John. Actually, John.
I mean,
so that to me
by
is
just
enough to
wins and
say that I
losses.
don't. So
We're just
that's
gonna go by wins and losses.
That's fine.
Okay,
but
so
I
let me
also
ask
brought
this-
up more than wins and losses, John.
Let me ask this question, John. Let me ask you this question. You have to go to New England and play New England in New England in between Green Bay and the Jets. Yep. So I want to make sure I understand this before I ask my question.
Yeah.
You're saying that this Dolphins team is not the same Dolphins team as old. And
Correct.
With the additions that you've made and what you've seen Tua do this season, you have a very small reservation about your team not being successful. Is that fair to say?
No.
Or if you have none, then say you have none.
No. I definitely think that they can go into any stadium and give any of these teams a fight. I don't know if they're going to win or not. But I think they can go into any of these AFC stadiums and give them a fight.
That's fine. So, like I said, you have to go to you have to go to New England. Now, as we know, New England, not as weather-wise, may not be as bad as Buffalo, but still, you are up north.
Rough, yeah.
It can get rough. So my question to you is this. Should you be successful in New England, okay, but it is the same type of game that you played in Buffalo, where you took them to the brink, but at the end of the day, you actually were the victor. Will your reservation about the Dolphins in the playoffs be heightened even more now, knowing that you can, in fact, go into an outdoor, up north, cold stadium and play and win?
I have complete confidence that we can compete with any of these teams in the AFC. I have complete confidence.
Okay, that's all. That is all I wanted to know.
And nobody's going to argue that, John.
Tua's never lost to Bill Belichick. He's undefeated against Bill Belichick. Never lost. Not in New England. Not in Miami. He's
not worried about
undefeated against him.
He might not make the playoffs.
2.5 seasons.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm saying, Jake, because they got to go to New England. That's one of the important
I know,
games
but that's not a game I'm worrying about playoff-wise. I'm talking about teams you'll face in the playoffs.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's my concern.
Okay.
I think we can go to any of these stadiums, and
time will tell, John.
Let me ask you one more, John, really quick. Let's say, for argument's sake, that the first round matchup, if you get in at the number 7 seed, you would have to go to Kansas City. Wild card weekend. You are confident that you can go into Arrowhead and do
where it will be cold. It'll be cold.
What very few people have been able to do.
I'm confident
because now Tyreek is going to go back to Kansas City. I'm just
that would be quite the story.
I'm laying it up for you, bro.
I'm confident our offense can come through. I'm not confident in our defense. It's been one of the worst defenses in football this year. The defensive line is fantastic, as you guys saw, but the back end has been, it's full of rookies. It's been really bad. It's full of injuries. So I'm not confident in the defense, but I'm 100% confident that the offense.
I want to make one last comment.
Sure.
In the lovely words of Jim Carrey, and I hope you guys have seen the movie Liar, Liar. And John, I'm not calling you a liar at all. I'm just quoting from that movie. In one of the final scenes in the court, Jim Carrey says, "And the truth will set you free." John, that was the truth. You finally told the first truth thing, which is really what you're confident in, John. You're confident in your offense, but you have no confidence or very little confidence in your defense. And I know, but that is that is a concern of mine, which is what I outlined about how well Josh Allen played in the cold at home.
But
that
for 14
that
games,
proves my point
that
a little bit. That's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that was my concern as a part of my concern.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to flip the script because I have to, if we're going to talk about Miami and we're going to get on John for about 20 minutes, I got to flip the script here and talk to my man over here, my NFC East brother, who,
You have to.
Yes, because you know what? If you didn't win the game on Sunday night,
Oh boy.
this
JT,
wouldn't
do you
even
have
be a
a picture of that
conversation.
pass interference or that offside?
John?
I don't want to.
or any
John?
of those
I'll talk about
John.
those.
penalties.
John,
Well, those were penalties.
John,
I'm
for
just
the
asking.
John, for the second to last Tuesday in this John Shear, you were out of order for that.
The
Okay.
refs were out of order. Just
Yes,
saying.
they were.
That's no
But you weren't the
no
refs.
contest for me. I'm not going to argue that.
So, Jake, I have to ask you, because of the situation that you're currently in, sitting at 8-5-1, how do you feel specifically
Oh.
about your offense aside from Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley with these last 3 games?
If my confidence was put on a scale of 1 to 10, if we're excluding Saquon and Daniel Jones,
Yes, sir.
I'll be polite and call it maybe a 1. I have no confidence in this. Look, I said the Giants would make the playoffs at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
I was very adamant about that, and I will stick to my guns. I believe they'll make the playoffs. Outside of that, I think they got nothing. They have no receivers. Saquon Barkley is the offense. They're I think if they get a matchup in the playoffs outside of our division, which is quite possible,
Which would be the first round.
yes, I have almost no confidence because there's just a lot better teams. And, let's say we play the Vikings.
Who you're playing this Saturday by chance.
Exactly. So we'll see how it goes. But I think even though their defense is bad, they'll make plays on us because we are not a good offense. We're just not. I unfortunately have no confidence. I wish I had more, but I don't. I've seen this team play all season. The offense runs through Saquon Barkley, and the Giants have also not run the ball with Daniel Jones as much as of recent, and that's been disappointing. And again, if you exclude them, there's really nothing. I mean, who are our receivers? Kenny Golladay, whenever he plays, Richie James.
Slayton's been pretty solid.
Darius Slayton's fine, but he's more of a deep ball threat. So there's not a lot there to be excited about.
Right. If the playoffs were to start today, your first round matchup would be, unfortunately, sir, against the San Francisco 49ers.
Get
ouch.
clobbered.
Oh my gosh.
We would, Eric, I would confidently say we lose that game by at least 17.
Wow.
I think 17 is probably a number I would say we lose by at least that because their defense is one of the best in the NFL and their offense hasn't missed a beat since Trey Lance went down and then Jimmy G goes down. Hasn't had a problem. I think our offense would struggle mightily and their offense would just clobber our defense. So,
and John,
again, my confidence is even lower against them.
And John, and like I said to you earlier, sir, I was just spitballing, but I guess I knew the schedule. Your first round matchup, sir, you would be heading to Arrowhead. So think about it like this, John.
Bring it on.
You would have to hold on, John. You would have to go to Arrowhead wildcard weekend and then go to Buffalo for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Bring it on.
Like
matchups.
I want to bring up some Daniel Jones stats and how bad.
Before we bring up Daniel Jones real quick,
we're talking
and our producer in the back, I need a minute with John. So if our producer in the back, my man JT, if I could just speak to John for 1 second, I need something that I have to say to him before we get out of here tonight. So John Shear, let me take my hat off real quick. Sorry, this is not a holiday moment, my brother.
Magic Christmas.
And I preface these comments with, if you want to shoot the messenger, feel free, but you're gonna miss anyhow. John. There is a show as part of the Sideline Sports Network called The Gauntlet, led by my brother, Philly Jim. And he is patiently, and from a Philly guy, it is patiently when he is just like, I'm okay. He is patiently waiting for you to acknowledge that you were wrong about Jalen Hurts.
Well, I didn't say anything
John,
about Hurts. I said about A.J. Brown.
Well, whomever
AJ Brown.
It was a Philadelphia Eagle player, John, that you spoke negatively about. So I am here to tell you. Let me make sure I'm facing you when I say this. Wait, yes, I'm facing you right now when I say this. John Shear, you need to go on the gauntlet and you need to acknowledge that you were wrong about AJ Brown. This is not a request. This is not a, oh, please. I am telling you, you need to be on the gauntlet and formally apologize to James Philly Jim Tatum that you, John Shear, were wrong about AJ Brown.
But I wasn't. I don't think I was.
He can't ever admit that he's wrong about anything.
It's just
John in his mind is always
Daniel
right no matter what.
Jones
I want to
has.
thank our producer for that. Thank you so much.
So Daniel Jones has
appreciate you.
5 games this year where he's broken 200 passing yards. 5 games in 14 games.
You're not going to hear an argument from me.
No, I know.
John.
I'm just
I'll be
telling
honest
you
about my
some Daniel
quarterback.
Jones stats because he's been really bad. 5 games where he's hit 200 yards. He has 1 game of 300 yards.
I would love to know what our rushing stats are in those games, just out of pure curiosity.
And in 14 games played by Daniel Jones, he has 3 games with 2 passing touchdowns or more, and 0 games with 3 passing touchdowns.
All I would love to know from that really is how many attempts, how many rushing attempts we had, yards, all that. That's all I'm curious about, because as somebody who watches this offense, unfortunately, every week, we are very heavy.
Stop saying unfortunately. Stop saying unfortunately.
They're not good on offense.
He's got the JB Grinch effect going on where he just talks negative about his team until they do good.
Just honest. Just honest, guys.
Well, honestly, you're in the playoffs right now. So
and
why
that's
don't you
great.
honestly talk about that?
And that is fantastic. I'm
He
ecstatic.
knows they're headed for a slaughterhouse, so he knows.
Unfortunately, that's true too. I'm not going to pretend like we're some juggernaut, but Eric, trust me, I'm very excited to be in the playoffs. But John, I think the one thing that you have to know is he hasn't really gone over 30 attempts. I wouldn't say he doesn't do it that often. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games. So about half the games he's gone over 30 attempts. So to your point, again, I know he's not good. I'm not arguing.
No, I just wanted to give you some stats on him since we're talking Giants. That's all.
That's great, John. But the truth is he just doesn't – we don't pass the ball a lot, unfortunately. That's not –
I think part of that is you just don't trust him.
No, I don't think that at all.
Because you want him to run the ball and you want him to not turn it over and make some nice throws.
But why wouldn't you run when you have Saquon Barkley?
No. You want him to run the ball sometimes, make some nice throws.
Well, yeah, I do, because he's a great runner.
And not
I think he's a great runner, so why wouldn't I want him to run the ball?
That's all you ask of Daniel Jones. You don't ask him to, win you the game.
That's not what I said.
I'm just saying. I'm saying from my perspective, you don't ask him to win.
We rely on our stars, which is Saquon Barkley. That's what smart teams do. That is what.
John, I know you don't like to hear this, but sometimes your perspective is wrong.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. That's exactly what they're doing with Daniel Jones.
Okay. Like I said, you don't like hearing it, and not a lot of people can sit there and tell you that to your face or have the stones to tell you that to your face, but I will. John, you're wrong. Sometimes you're wrong.
You are wrong.
Okay.
John, you're wrong.
I'm just saying he's not a franchise quarterback that don't.
Nobody's arguing that. You're just making up arguments.
Throwing it out there. I'm just throwing it out there.
But John, you're trying to make an argument that
hasn't
been made by anybody. I'm not saying he's a franchise quarterback. Those words have never exited my mouth.
I didn't say that. I was just giving you some stats.
So why are you bringing it up? That's what I don't understand.
I enjoy stats because I enjoy stats. I enjoy looking
at stats too, but I know he's not a franchise quarterback.
Okay.
I enjoy bringing this stuff up.
Listen, we got 3 minutes left. What else we got to talk about? We got 3 minutes left, fellas.
Hey,
I wanted
are the Eagles dead?
No, we're not going to talk about that.
Are the Eagles? Well, we got a couple minutes. Are they dead?
What do you mean?
I want to talk about something else.
Okay, go ahead, Jay.
Dead in the water.
To answer your question, John, no, they're not. Go ahead.
I don't know where you got these notions. I want to talk about Matt Ryan because I think he might be cursed.
Oh yeah, he's the most unluckiest quarterback out there.
I know. He has been. I don't know if you guys knew this. He has been on the end of the 4 biggest blown leads in NFL history. He has had the largest blown lead in the Super Bowl, which was 28-3, as we all know. He has had the largest blown lead in an NFC title game. He was up 17-0 on the Niners in 2013. He has now had the largest blown lead in an international game. He was up on the Lions 21-0 in 2014. And of course, this last week, as we all saw, he lost to the Minnesota Vikings as they were up 33-0.
Don't forget he choked against the Eagles in the playoffs, and then the Eagles went on to win the Super Bowl.
We're talking about the biggest leads.
He was also part of that.
We're talking about the biggest
I'm just
leads.
saying he was part of the Eagles' first championship run too, so he's part of history.
John, we got about a minute left before we got to wrap this up here. I'm just saying Matt Ryan's unlucky. That's all. That's all this is. There's nothing more to it. It's Matt Ryan is unlucky, period, end of story. And it sucks to be Matt Ryan because he's a decent quarterback, but the poor guy just loses.
He can't get a lead. He has to be the underdog.
Yeah, Elf is the greatest Christmas movie ever, and Die Hard's not a Christmas movie. All right.
Die Hard is a Christmas movie. And you know what? Merry Christmas, you filthy animal. Love you guys. I'll talk to you next week.
Everybody, we will see you in, actually not next week, in 2 weeks. We're taking off next week for the holidays. So everybody have a Merry Christmas. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Eric, you are correct. And everybody
Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Much love to everybody. See ya.